We're going to start with the Manchester Derby. This is Saturday at 7:30 a.m., so grab your coffee, shake off whatever you did the night before, and get up because this is going to be a really good game. You have a red-hot Manchester United team that has really turned their season around, has been one of the best, if not the best team, honestly, in the Prem over the last couple of weeks, or in play at least. And then City, who has just absolutely dominated them in the Derby and hasn't been all too bad themselves. Obviously, that is sarcastic. They have been very good. Martino, tell me how much of history you're putting into this one, because City has dominated over the last couple of meetings. And just tell me what you think from two really good squads.
Yeah, the history basically started in 2010, right? Because anything before that's just all Manchester United. We're both Mets fans. It's essentially Yankees Mets at this point. But again, it's interesting with City because we mentioned Carabao Cup. It depends on how much stock you put into that competition. We've seen FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and this is always the talk around English sides: is how many competitions, how many do they care about? 0 shots on target midweek. For me, it's like, will City do that again? My answer is no. I really trust him in this. United have played them a little bit better as of recently, but make no mistake about it, City is head and shoulders above. They can't afford to lose or drop points in this one as far as City goes, because again, if you think about it, they're still behind Arsenal, despite Erling Haaland being on record historic pace that we've never seen in this league, where he already has 20 goals at the halfway point through the season. For me, this is about City taking over this game because they have to. Not because, it's this type of game of, bragging rights that a lot of people like to point towards. And anything can happen in a derby. For me, I love City on the money line, minus 115. There isn't that much juice whatsoever for a favorite like this. And again, over 1.5 in this game with City money line. Talking about plus 120 is not that bad. It's just 2 legs. You're not really stressing too much, and it's reasonable. 2 goals is reasonable with the amount of firepower in this game. So for me, that's where I've been looking. With the total like 2.5, it's kind of sketch considering what we saw midweek, and at times United can struggle with scoring. But again, all bets are off in this type of game.
Yeah, in terms of goal difference, correct me if I'm wrong, but United is pretty far down in terms of the top 5 and what we see there. And we already know, obviously, what City can do on the offensive end. I'm going to preface my picks by saying I am not telling you to put all of these together in a same-game parlay. But I'm also not telling you not to put them all together in a same-game parlay. But if you do, make sure you're using OddsChecker's Odds Grid to make sure you're getting the best value and you know exactly which sportsbook to use. Martino, I'm going to start reading these legs off to you because there's a very real scenario where this happens. I'm not saying it's a lock. I'm not saying it's not a lock, though. So we have City money line. I'm starting on the same place as you, minus 115. Both teams to score at minus 143. You mentioned United struggling to score at times, but I think when you get a quote-unquote vulnerable City squad, considering what happened midweek, I think obviously City is very fired up. I'd be looking into markets for City to score first as well. But I think United has as much enough firepower, and for as hot as they have been and how important this game is, because they're tied right now and they want to secure a spot for the champions as well, and even make a run for the championship for the title of the Prem. I think both teams get on the scoreboard here. That's at minus 143. And then the over of 2.5, which is a little risky, but obviously you can't combine both teams to score in over 1.5 at minus 138. So if you just go with that, you get to plus 428 at Unibet. You can get that at 414 at Caesars or 386 on FanDuel, which is why you always use the grid. Now, if you add in a Haaland goal, which you mentioned, if you live under a rock, he's quite good at soccer. He's quite good at scoring goals and what he does. It's at minus 110. But if you add that on top of all that, you get to plus 899. On a scale of 1 to 10, how crazy am I for taking that?
2. I mean, okay. again, the way I look at it is just like, what kind of results do you see happening? And with this, you're essentially saying I could see 2-1 win with Haaland scoring for City. Yeah, and you're like, that's possible. And then you're like, oh, you can get it at almost plus 900, essentially. You're like, oh, okay, well then that's great. And it is great. So For me, again, process right there, picking out value, combining it, and again,
Mm.
it's nothing crazy. You don't even
Yeah.
have a leg in here that's at least minus 200. Everything is under minus 150. That's insane. And
Mm.
again, this is the type of stuff that you can get value wise in the US compared to the rest of the world. Because again, we always like to talk about it during the World Cup and on this show. Scoring markets are wild. Minus 110
Yeah.
for a guy who's having statistically the greatest pace ever in Premier League history. Yeah, go do it. Go do it, man. Like, what else do you have to know about it? It's like James Harden
Yeah.
averaging 35 points per season, and you're getting a prop saying, oh, James Harden 30 plus points at like minus 120. Yeah. Like, if he's
I'm trying
averaging
to
that
think.
much, you know,
I'm trying to think of an equivalent for like an anytime touchdown score because it's not like an Austin Eckler that's automatic, but that's about the odds that you're getting it at.
I mean,
Honestly.
Gronk in his prime, we're talking about the best weapon that you could ever see. Really,
Mm.
this is in the modern era of the Premier League, this is the best team, Pep
Mm.
City, with the amount of accomplishments they have domestically. Now they arguably get the greatest striker in league history outside of Thierry Henry. Henry plays different, but as a pure goal scorer, I mean, at this point, the rate
I'm
that
not
he's going
disagreeing,
at,
but whoa.
I mean, under the age of 24, like there's nobody. I mean, he's on
Yeah.
pace to shatter every top player that has played in this league already in his first season. Usually everyone takes time to adapt. This guy doesn't
Mhm.
need time. He's a freak of nature. And so yeah, I mean, there is no equivalent to Erling Haaland. He is his own man. It's incredible to see. And again, in a derby like this guy turns up in these types of
Mhm.
matches. He has that type of alpha mentality that you like to see in some of these superstars. So Holland in general, man. I mean, I think it's kind of malpractice not to bet him to score in the Premier League at this point. Seriously, like what
I'll
are we
take it.
looking at? Worst case is minus 110. Sue
Uh
me.
huh.
Like it's all right if I lose that. I'm okay with
Yeah.
it.
I'll call me a sucker if I fall for it.